Hi, I think you just saw my cat. We are looking at the concluding chapters of Gulliver's Travels, and I just wanted to talk about three overriding features of the conclusion of Swift's satire. So, to start, I wanted to talk about how the English are increasingly identified with the Yahoos. And of course, that entails Gulliver being increasingly associated with the Yahoo as a Yahoo. So, just to look at a couple of passages on 243, the parallels between the Yahoos and the English become especially clear. Whereas Gulliver's talking to his master, Wynnum, who assures him, this is a quote in the first paragraph, that in the fields where the shining stones abound, the fiercest and most frequent battles are fought, occasioned by perpetual inroads of the neighboring Yahoos. So the Yahoos are depicted as selfish, as power hungry, as wanting to get at these refulgent stones, as eating all the food that they can and not setting up a rational system of governance. And then the Gulliver's identity as a Yahoo is cemented in a memorable passage on 248 and 249. And this is the bottom of 248. It's where a female Yahoo tries to have sex with him, right? This is the last paragraph of 248. Being one day abroad with my protector, the sorrel nag, and the weather exceeding hot, I entreated him to let me bathe in a river that was near. He consented, and I immediately stripped myself stark naked and went down softly into the stream. It happened that a young female Yahoo, standing behind a bank, saw the whole proceeding, and inflamed by desire, as the nag and I conjectured, came running with all speed, and leaped into the water within 5 yards of the place where I bathed. I was never in my life so terribly frighted. The nag was grazing at some distance, not suspecting any harm. She embraced me after a most fulsome manner. I roared as loud as I could, and the nag came galloping toward me. And in the next paragraph, he reveals that he can no longer deny that I was a real Yahoo in every limb and feature, since the females had a natural propensity to me as one of their own species. So because of this thwarted sex attempt by the female Yahoo, Gulliver comes to see himself. He can no longer deny that he is in fact also a Yahoo, that he is part of their species. So we've talked about this in class, the mirror that's being held up to Gulliver and to the English reveals the true barbarity of their customs, of their ways of being, of their colonialist endeavors. Now, the Wynnums, on the other hand, are depicted as purely rational. And of course, Gulliver comes to adore the Wynnums and wants to stay there for the rest of his life. He has no desire to go back to England and back to the Yahoos. But there are a couple of passages where perhaps the Wynnums' pure rationality might exceed the bounds of what Swift might consider humane, right? So if we go to 249, this is the last full paragraph of that page. As these noble Wynnums are endowed by nature with a general disposition to all virtues, and have no conceptions or ideas of what is evil in a rational creature, so their grand maxim is to cultivate reason and to be wholly governed by it. So to be wholly governed by reason and by rationality, by these kind of cold scientific principles that are maybe lacking a little bit in human feeling, right? So that if we go to 256, we find out that when a member of the Winham family dies, there is no grieving that happens. So this is the large paragraph on 256. If they can avoid casualties, they die only of old age and are buried in the obscurest places that can be found, their friends and relations expressing neither joy nor grief at their departure, nor does the dying person discover the least regret that he is leaving the world, any more than if he were returning home from a visit to one of the neighbors. So this stoicism is kind of bizarre, right? A Winham dies, they bury the Winham as far away as they can, so like out of sight, out of mind. Nobody is grieving. There's no kind of like human feeling attached. And so maybe this desire to be governed by sheer reason has its limits, and I think we see that with the organization of Winham death rituals. Finally, Gulliver develops such an antipathy for the Yahoos that when he finally is forced, and the Winhams decide that he has to leave, right? He is cast out from Winham Land, much to his chagrin, right? He doesn't want to leave, but he has to go back to England. He returns to his family, and in couple of the final chapters, 271 in particular, my wife and family received me with great surprise and joy, because they concluded me certainly dead, he reveals. But I must freely confess that the sight of them filled me only with hatred, disgust, and contempt, and the more by reflecting on the near alliance I had to them, right? And then I began to consider that by copulating with one of the Yahoo species, I had become a parent of more. It struck me with the utmost shame, confusion, and horror. So Gulliver is just beleaguered and beside himself that he has actually propagated the Yahoo species, that that through his copulating with his wife, he's produced more Yahoos. And in the final sentences of this chapter, he writes, "The first money I laid out was to buy 2 young stone horses, which I keep in a good stable, and next to them the groom is my favorite. For I feel my spirits revived by the smell he contracts in the stable. My horses understand me tolerably well. I converse with them at least 4 hours every day. They are strangers to bridle or saddle. They live in great amity with me and friendship to each other." So I love this last image of Gulliver buying horses and talking to them for 4 hours a day in the language he's learned in Winham Land, and treating these animals with respect. But of course, how does that look to the other people back in England, back home? I mean, they just think that he's unhinged, right? So the concluding chapters further promote Swift's message about the evils of colonialism. He does it through satire. And lastly, the point I want to make is that this satiric mode is only available in the form of the novel, right? So the extended prose narrative that allows for some interiority, but mostly for the projection of a social and political, of 4 different social political landscapes that reflect the evils of Englishness, of English politics, back onto itself and on the readers who would then eventually consume this novel. So this concludes our unit on the novel Satire and Anti-Colonialism. Thanks for hanging with me through this. Your assignment for today is to conduct collaborative annotation. So you have 2 annotations and 2 responses to classmates, and then no reading over the weekend. And we will watch Moonlight as part of our new unit on film and queer theory. Okay, that is all. Thanks for reading Swift with me. That was fun. Have a good weekend.